Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Yeah, it's good to see you all. It may be a little cloudy outside, but the sun is shining in here, right? Always, always shining in here. Hey, look, we've got a good program today. We've got someone that's going to educate us on gardening and planting and what have you. However, learning how to plant and grow vegetables and fruit and beautiful flowers. We've got an expert here from Jung's Garden Center, right here in Fitchburg. I don't know, many of you may have already visited their store, their center, but if not, I'm sure you will after today. So help me in welcoming Angela Whalen from Jung's Garden Center.
Thank you, Janice, for the introduction. As she has said, I am Angela from Jung Garden Center. It's in Fitchburg on Nesbitt Road. How many of you guys been there before? Woohoo! Awesome! Thanks. So we're going to go over the history of Jung Garden Center to start us off. It was founded in 1907 by J.W. Jung in Randolph, Wisconsin. It was originally just a seed company, and it was just catalog based. Over time, they purchased new equipment, printing presses, new buildings, and over time it grew. In 1955, they created the first Jung Garden Center at their headquarters in Randolph. Now there are 6 stores: Fitchburg, Madison, Randolph, Sun Prairie, Stoughton, and Stevens Point. We're going to go over the pronunciation of Jung Garden Center. There is no wrong way of saying Jung or Jung. They're both the same. The German name is Jung. But a little background. The phone book, customers weren't sure to look under Y or J. So one of the stories is that they adopted the hard J sound to help people with finding the phone number in the phone book. Another part of the story is back in the day, the company was split into 2 pieces. One cousin took the catalog and the Jung Garden Centers, and the other cousin took the Jung seed genetics. The seed genetics, that's the farm crops such as corn and alfalfa. So to help with confusion over Jung seed genetics versus Jung Garden Center, Jung Garden Center got the hard J sound. But there's no wrong way of saying it because it's just a family name. So in this presentation, we're going to go over some basic gardening techniques, such as indoor seed starting, direct sow seed starting, how to pick the right plant, some planting techniques, and basic care for annuals and vegetables. And then for perennials and trees and shrubs, we're going to go over the difference between a perennial and a shrub, how to pick out the right plant for the right place, planting techniques, and basic care. If you guys have any questions along the way, feel free to shout them out and ask. So annuals and vegetables. What even is an annual plant? Annuals are plants that will live through just one growing season. They unfortunately will not survive the winters in Wisconsin. Gardening is a lot of trial and error. I have failed many times, but I've also succeeded many times. And through those trials and errors, you will find which types of seeds or which types of plants will work out best for you. For example, I have problems growing Calibrachoa flowers. Those are similar to petunias, but they require a lot less water. I have overwatered them plenty of times, so I personally don't go with Calibrachoas anymore. So lots of trial and error. How to decide what variety of plant is right for you? I suggest researching different types of varieties of, let's say, cucumbers. Jung Seed Company does have a catalog with all the varieties of seeds in it that we sell at the stores and in the catalog. So you'll want to go over, what are you going to use it for? Are you using it, let's say cucumbers, pickling or slicing? How big do you want the vines to be, or do you want a bush variety? Days to maturity. The seed packet will tell you how many days it is till the fruit is ready to be eaten. So if you want it to be a little quicker ripening, you'll go on a shorter day. Let's say you're going out of town, so you want your fruit to be ready in a certain time period. Color of like annual seeds or the flavor profile. Cucumbers, again, some of them have thicker skins, some of them have thinner skins. And then there's the burpless varieties versus the non-burpless varieties. So direct sowing seeds. Certain types of seeds prefer to be sown directly into the ground instead of seed started inside. So direct sow seed types would include beans, corn, cucumbers, melons, just to name a few. Supplies needed. We'll go over that in a couple slides. And when to sow them, usually around the last danger of frost. Carrot seeds, however, you can plant sooner than the last danger of frost, and they'll come up when they're ready. Indoor seed starting, we're gonna go over the supplies needed, and unfortunately I don't have the chart for when to sow seeds, sorry about that. But all about seed starting indoors we're gonna go over. So how to pick out the right variety, which we've touched on briefly already. So annuals, you want to research some varieties before you go to this center, just to give yourself a little base knowledge. You want to go over shade versus sun. Are you looking for a plant that grows well, that needs to grow well in shade, or do you have a full sun spot, of which you'll want to pick out annuals that need 6 or more hours of sunlight? Are you going to be planting in a container for your patio, or are you going to be planting them in the ground? You'll want to know what size of plant to choose. Do you want it to be 3 to 4 feet tall, or do you want it to be 6 inches tall at maturity? Watering needs. Are you going to be spending every day watering this plant, or do you want something that's a little more drought resistant? And maintaining. Do you want to be out there deadheading every single day, which a lot of people find very therapeutic, or do you want to plant it and let the plant thrive on its own? Vegetables. Most vegetables want full sun. You can get away with 4 hours of sun for things like lettuce and some herbs, but most of the time, vegetables just want 6 or more hours of sun. The more, the better for them to thrive. How tall do you want your vegetable to be at maturity? Tomatoes, some of those tomatoes, the indeterminate varieties, they get taller than me if you'll let them. Other varieties of tomatoes, such as the determinate varieties, stay nice and short. Those are more suitable for containers. The usage, are you going to be canning tomatoes? Then you might want to go with a determinate variety because they are determined to get all their fruit all done at once. Whereas indeterminate varieties, they will have a trickle of fruit through the season. Are you going to be planting your vegetables in the ground or in containers? Something to think about. Also, every single plant will have associated pests and diseases, so you might want to go with hybrids and varieties that are a little more disease resistant. So indoor seed starting. Sometimes this can be a daunting task. But once you start seed starting inside, you will love it, trust me. Some supplies that you need. Seed starting trays, such as the breakaway cells. So there's 12 breakaway parts with 4 each in each one. A tray with no holes. A humidity dome. Grow lights. Seed starting soil, such as the Jung seed starting mix. A heat mat. Labeling stakes so you know what you planted, a spray bottle, and a watering can. And you don't have to get the 4-packs that I have shown here. There are other varieties of trays. This is just a really good go-to variety. It's got a good size to them. So here are the steps of seed starting inside. You'll want to pre-moisten your seed starting mix. Moisten it in a container until it can form a clump with your hand. You don't want to wring out any water, but you want it to form to your hand. Sow seeds at the depth that is specified on the package of the seeds. Some require it a little deeper, a ½ inch. Some require just a dusting of soil on top of them. Label what you're sowing and include the date. I have forgotten to do this once, and that was not very good. I lost track of which tomato varieties I had planted. Then you'll want to, after you cover them, you'll want to spray them lightly with water. I prefer misting them lightly because if you just use your watering can to water the cells, it'll displace all the seeds. Or put them at a depth that would be not good for the seeds to germinate. So I put the breakaway cells into the tray with no holes and then water that tray with no holes. It'll wick up through the bottom to keep your soil moist. Put the humidity dome on the tray. Seeds love humidity to germinate. Then you want to put them on a heat mat underneath grow lights. The heat mat is necessary because it provides the soil temperature to be warmer than what you would generally have your house set at. A lot of tomatoes and peppers like to be 80 degrees to germinate, and then they'll germinate within a week. Other varieties of vegetables, like broccoli, they don't need it as warm, but they don't mind the little extra warmth. Then you want to keep the soil moist but not soggy to ensure that the seeds germinate properly. Here's a setup of somebody's grow system. So you can have multiple layers to it. Just put your grow lights above the dividers of the racking system. Once all the seeds have germinated, you'll remove the heat mat. They do not need the heat once they have germinated. You'll also remove the humidity dome once the seeds have reached about the top of it. The humidity domes are only 3 inches tall. And then once the seeds have 2 sets of true leaves, then you'll want to transplant them into larger containers such as a 4-inch. So there is a little bit of work that goes along to transplanting them again. So what is a cotyledon? The cotyledon is the first seeds the first leaves that come out of the seed. So those baby leaves are the cotyledons. They look different than the true leaves do. Those would be the true leaves. When you pot up your seedlings into your 4-inch containers, you'll want to use a pre-plant fertilizer, such as the True Organic brand fertilizer. So when you're seed starting, you want to keep the lights directly above the seeds. This prevents them from getting leggy and spindly. They are trying to reach light, and that's what's causing them to get spindly. That is called etiolation. So when you see spindly plants, that's because they were not getting enough light. These ones are getting plenty of light, so their growth is pretty perfect. Something that you can do to promote strong, sturdy branching of seedlings is to pinch off the tops of the leaves. It sounds scary, but it will pay off. Your seedlings will be bushier, the stalks will be sturdier, they'll be able to withstand wind when you plant them out better. So this is before you pinch off the seeds, and then this is after they'll start growing 2 more where you pinch them off. And you don't even need a pruners for this. You can literally just take your fingernails and pinch off the tops. Planting out seedlings. This is a slow process. You need to acclimate them to the sun because your grow lights are nowhere near the intensity of the sun. So I suggest putting them out in the sun for about an hour or 2 a day, bring them back in, and do that over about 2 weeks. So increase the amount of time that they are in the sun for a period of about 2 weeks. This will prevent them from getting sunburned. Here's a picture of some sunburned tomatoes. And it takes them a bit to recover because these are baby seedlings here, so you want to avoid letting them get sunburned. Also, putting them outside in short stages like that will make them be able to withstand wind easier. The first couple times you put them out, I would not do that on a windy day. I recommend planting them out with Biotone starter fertilizer. It also has some beneficial microbes in it to help root growth. And you'll want to do that once all danger of frost has passed. So in this area, you want to wait till about Memorial Day until you officially plant them in the ground. If you plant things like basil when it's still potentially going under 50 degrees at night, you could damage your seedlings. So it's best to be patient and just wait. Also, just put that fence around the vegetables as soon as you can, because those rabbits are hungry. They will eat anything. Very hungry rabbits. Did you have any questions about indoor seed starting? Yes, you can. You can use heating pads instead of the fancy seed starting heat mat. That'll work just fine too. When I first started seed starting, I actually used the old Christmas lights because those provided a lot of heat. So I put those on a tray, and then put another tray on top of it, the one that I would put the water in. So then the Christmas lights would heat up the water. That was indoor seed starting on a budget. We're gonna jump into direct sowing seeds. This is a lot easier, a lot more straightforward. You can still pick your seed varieties to fit your needs. So you're gonna wanna prepare the soil. Loosen the soil, remove any weeds that are in the soil, apply fertilizer in your rows such as Biotone, Biospoma. You can put the compost and manure down at this time too. You just wanna get the soil ready to give the seeds the best chance of germinating and starting off right. Yeah, the Biotone starter that has mycorrhizae in it. Mycorrhizae is beneficial fungi that form symbiotic colonies with the roots to promote root growth, increases absorption of nutrients, increases water absorption. I highly recommend any product that has mycorrhizae in it. So when the time is right, that'll depend on the seed that you are sowing. Then you'll want to plant them out. You'll want to plant them at the depth specified on the seed package. For example, bean seeds, they want to be planted at about 1 inch deep. And you can just put them in your row and then cover them up. You want to make sure you water them. Cucumbers, though, they want to be planted in the ground when it's above 50 degrees consistently. Those are a little different. You can put 3 in a little area in one hole. Then you'll get 3 vines coming out from one little area. Once again, fence them, because the rabbits will eat them if you don't. Keep the soil moist but not soggy throughout the germination process. If it's too soggy, the seeds could rot, and then they will not germinate. Don't forget to label them also, and the date of which you planted them. So growing vegetables and annuals, once again, you'll want to fence them. Apply straw to prevent soil from splashing up on the lower leaves and to prevent weeds from germinating. Soil splashing on the leaves can sometimes cause certain diseases such as blight. So just put the straw down pretty much immediately after you're done planting. You want to prune the spent leaves. The plant may try to spend energy into recovering those leaves. Don't let them do that. Just prune off any spent leaves or any leaves that are looking damaged. Fertilize every 2 weeks with water-soluble fertilizer, such as the Jack's Veggie Feed. Jack's is a really good fertilizer brand. It's got micronutrients in it as well, not just your normal nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So it's got a whole good blend to sustain proper growth. So even though you already applied some granular fertilizer, that's slow release, so I highly recommend doubling up. You've got your granular fertilizer already in there when you planted, but then use the water-soluble fertilizer because that kind of jump starts everything and it hits the plant immediately, whereas the granular will take you through the season. So all plants will have pests and diseases. It is inevitable. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're gardening. Just be prepared to have pests on your plants. Lots of vegetables actually do wonderful in containers. I have a balcony, and I've got lettuce and herbs growing in containers on my balcony. So you don't have to have ground to be able to grow vegetables. So annuals, switching gears, those are very heavy feeders. Once again, you already use your granular fertilizer, but you'll want to use a bloom booster, such as the Jack's Blossom Booster, to make sure they are performing well throughout the season. The middle number here, 30, that shows how much phosphorus it has, and phosphorus promotes strong blooms and strong roots. You want to deadhead spent flowers regularly. If you don't deadhead flowers, the plant is going to try to form seeds. So if your flower was pollinated, it'll try to put the energy into forming seeds, which you don't want. You want more flowers coming out of your annuals. They've only got one season to live. You gotta get the bang for your buck on those ones. So spend some time and deadhead your flowers. There are some self-cleaning varieties from proven winners, and those ones you don't have to baby as much for deadheading. But those are few and far in between. And annuals, they also do really well in containers. So you don't need to put them in the ground if you don't have to. We're gonna go over the art of pruning tomatoes. Pruning tomatoes can be difficult and challenging. You wanna start pruning them when they're smaller so you can get ahead of the game. Indeterminate varieties, the varieties that get huge, those ones will require the most pruning. You can either use cages or staking to support your tomatoes, and then you can start pruning. You'll want to prune the leaves up to the first fruiting cluster. Here's the first fruiting cluster. You can remove those leaves and those leaves and those leaves. They don't need it. Taking those leaves off also prevents the soil from splashing if you do not put your straw down below. So they're less susceptible to blight when you prune off those lower leaves. Any suckers you'll want to prune off. So there's a sucker there, and then some will actually bend downwards and into your plant. Those you'll want to remove as well. You want to create a plant that has lots of airflow. They don't need to be dense. Tomato plants won't perform as well when they've got tons and tons of leaves. They're putting lots of energy into making more leaves that they don't actually need. They can take a lot of pruning, so be aggressive. I've seen techniques where one plant has 3 stakes. They didn't use a cage. They chose 3 branches, supported the tomato branch with ties to their stake. And that's basically all they had. They used these pruning techniques. The plant looked kind of bare at first, but it produced really, really well. And the goal is to have lots of tomatoes. It's not to have lots of leaves. You also want to continue fertilizing because they are very heavy feeders. They like to eat. And we like to eat them. Annual planting techniques. So you can consider planting a container for your patio. I like to use the thriller, filler, spiller technique. It's very visually appealing. Supplies you'll need are a 12-inch pot or greater. That gives them enough soil and enough room to really get established to make your plants nice and big and beautiful. You'll need fertilizer, such as Plant Tone by Espoma. That's a slow-release granular fertilizer. And then you'll want to get a blossom booster as well. You'll need either a hose or a watering can, and your plants. This one here, the Thriller, is an Angelonia plant, so that one will get taller than the rest. Your filler would be a petunia, so that fills out the middle of the container. And then your spiller spills down below the pot. And in this case, it's a potato vine. You can do these for both sun and shade. This one is a sun container, but this one is a shade container. So they've got spikes, which can take sun or shade, a caladium, impatiens, and Lismantia for the spiller. And you can customize these, make them your own. Like we talked about earlier, it's trial and error. So if you put together a certain container variety that you don't actually like, it's only going to be one season. Try something next year. Or if you find you do really like it, make sure you save your labels so you remember what you planted that you liked so much. My mom, she's one that never saves her labels. Then she'll ask me, Angela, that did really well. What is that? Like, Mother, I don't know. I don't know what you planted last year. So save your labels. Yeah, Google it. Yep. Or keep a notebook. I have kept a seed starting notebook and an annual notebook. That'll let you remind yourself of what you planted that you liked. We're going to go over some common pests and diseases. Like I mentioned, every single plant has its associated pests and disease. It's just going to happen no matter what you do about it. So some examples for tomatoes would be blight. So your leaves will get spotty and yellow, and then they'll dry up and fall off. There's early light and late blight, so just make sure that you've got your straw, your mulch down to prevent the splashing. Also, when you're watering, you want to water in the morning because then it has all day to dry off the leaves. And if possible, use a water can or a hose and get at the base of the plant. Don't use a sprinkler to splash all the water all around, because spores, they're in the air and they will bounce from leaf to leaf when you're using a sprinkler system. The rain we can't really control, so that's going to happen with the rain. But in terms of what you can do to control, use that hose or that watering can to really get down there. It'll really help. Tomato hornworms, they can wreak havoc on your tomato plants, both the leaves and the fruit. Some pepper diseases, they also get blight. It's suggested to rotate your crops if you've got them in the ground. Next year, don't put a tomato or a pepper where you currently have it. Move it down in a different garden bed if you can. Broccoli and cabbages are highly susceptible to the cabbage moth. Those white moths that you see flying around a lot, those are cabbage moths. They will eat your leaves, they will eat foreign broccoli. If you want, you can soak it in water with a little bit of salt, and the caterpillars will come to the top. But it's kind of weird. You don't know if you got them all, and you don't know if you want to eat any of those, so you might want to get a spray, a pesticide, to take care of the cabbage moths. Squashes, they get a lot of powdery mildew. So that's when you'll see white powdery substance on your squashes and melons. They also get squash vine borers. The larvae will bore in the stem of your squash plant. Those you have to make a little slit and pull them out. That's kind of a hard process to do. Those will cause your entire plant to wilt and then die. So you want to get ahead of those as early as possible. Aphids. Everything could be attacked by aphids. So there's those little itty bitty green ones. They can be really hard to see. There's lots of different species of aphids. There's orange ones, black ones, yellow ones, green ones. There's cotton aphids as well. They look like little pieces of cotton flying around. And there's lots of generations that can happen in a short period of time. So once you notice the little green bugs on your plants, you'll want to probably purchase a spray insecticide to get rid of those. Some other symptoms of aphids, they cause curling of the leaves, and they also produce a sticky substance called honeydew. It's called honeydew because it's sweet. Ants, in particular, will then go to the sweet, sugary substance that the aphids produce. So if you get ants on your vegetables, you'll likely have aphids as well. So at Jung's, we've got lots of products that we can recommend to you based on anything that you bring, a sample that you bring in or a picture. Come in and visit me, show me a picture of what's going on with your plant, and I'll be able to help you out. Whether it's cultural practices to remove your pest problems or the insecticides and pesticides.
I had some problems with my azaleas coming back, so that was when I realized it wasn't only me. What's happening?
Our winter that we just went through, we did not have enough snow cover. Snow insulates plants, so we had some cold temperatures, and then it thawed. I think in February there was a bit of a thaw. So the freeze-thaw cycles that nature did to us this year without the insulation of the snow caused your plant to have some winter damage. And that was really common this year, not just on azaleas. Lots and lots of perennials were taken out this year by the horrible winter we had, and also other shrubs too. So your rose bush, yeah. This season I would let it go through and try to grow, but in the early spring, like March, cut it back. Try to fertilize it. I recommend Holly Tone by Espoma. It's designed for acid-loving shrubs like azaleas are. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna jump gears from the annuals and vegetables now to perennials. So what is a perennial? A perennial is a plant that lives 2 or more years. So it will make throughout the winter, and it'll come back. It will die back to the roots, though. You will not see sticks in the winter. It dies back completely. The tops die back. How to select a perennial? Let's say you have an area that you feel like you want to add some sort of plant to it. You need to determine, is it getting shade or sun, or a mix of both? Full sun is considered 6 or more hours. Part sun is 4 to 6 hours, and shade is 4 or less hours. How tall do you want your plant to be? Are you looking for a perennial that's as tall as me? Or do you want it to be a foot? Or are you looking for a ground cover that only gets a few inches? So the site that you have will determine what type of plant you are looking for. You may want to consider disease-resistant varieties. Some Monarda or bee balm are highly susceptible to powdery mildew, but the breeders have been able to create varieties that are a little less susceptible to powdery mildew. So maybe consider going with one of those varieties. Watering needs. Are you looking for something that's in a drier area that you may want it to be a little more drought resistant when it's established? Or are you looking for a plant that's in a lower area that can tolerate lots of water? Deer resistance. This is a big one. There are lots of plants that the deer favor, and few that the deer will leave alone. On the tags on the plants, it'll say if they're deer resistant. And if it doesn't, just ask and we will look it up for you. You want to stick with plants that are either zone 5 or below. What is a zone? A zone, and it's through the USDA, and they've determined the average minimum temperature in the winter time. Zone 5 plants are able to withstand negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Zone 4 plants can withstand negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Negative 3 can withstand negative 40, and so on. So you want to pick plants that are zone 5 or below. Do not choose a zone 6 plant, even if you think it's beautiful, because that can only withstand negative 10 degrees, and we know it gets colder than that. Technically, we are zone 5 in the Madison area, but there are some low areas or really windy sites that you might be actually zone 4. So I always err on the side of caution with getting zone 4, just to be on the safe side.
That map.
Yeah.
The zone map.
The zone
They've
map?
updated it, so there's a 4A and 4B now.
Yes. And I think even Milwaukee area might be zone 6 already.
Because
Planting perennials. You want to prepare the site. Dig a hole the same depth but twice as wide as the pot that it came in. Apply fertilizer such as Plant Tone by Espoma. This is a granular, slow-release fertilizer that also has mycorrhizae in it. Mycorrhizae is beneficial fungi that form colonies with the roots. It increases water absorption and nutrient absorption, making them overall drought resistant. So I highly recommend anything with mycorrhizae in it, such as Espoma's Plant Tone. So you'll take your plant out of the pot and loosen the roots up. Sometimes I call it tickling the roots. Breaking the roots, if it's all pot bound, actually promotes new root growth. So it's a good thing. If you just plop the plant in without disrupting some of the roots, it could stay going in circles and not really branch out like you want your roots to do. So you want to try to spread them horizontally if possible. They don't need to go down necessarily. They need to go out. Yes.
So I've heard of root pruning,
Mhm.
and that's what I've been doing both for annuals and perennials.
Yes.
I've never tickled them though.
You can rip prune, yeah, by snipping a little bit of it. Yeah. That's essentially the same thing. Yeah. If you want, you can also try to get all the growers' soil out of there, just in case they have either jumping worms in them or a fungus that you don't necessarily want, fungus gnats. So I like to get rid of the soil that came with the pot. Make sure you water it well. It'll promote settling properly as well. When you water it in well. And then you want to water when the top of the soil is dry for the first 3 years of the growing season. About 3 years is how long it takes for the plant to become really established. So yeah, the first 3 years of the plant's life is how long it'll take for it to become established. So when you see on plant tags, drought resistant, it's not actually drought resistant until it's established. So don't water it the first 2 weeks and then leave it be, because it will most likely die unless it's a really, really, really wet year. So you want to make sure you keep watering it. You need to go out there and put your finger in the soil to touch it to see if it's wet. It might be a whole 5-gallon pail on it every few days. That might be sufficient. It really depends on the year and the humidity of each week. A rule of thumb that I like to use when planting perennials and waiting for them to thrive is the first year they sleep. So you will not see a lot of upward growth. All the growing will be done under the soil with the roots. The roots are becoming established, especially when you use a product with mycorrhizae in it. You want healthy roots. So this is definitely a good thing. You might be a little worried at first because your plant's not getting big and bushy on the top, but that is okay. Don't panic. Second year, they creep. They're still developing their root system down below, but you will start to see a little bit more upward growth. The third year is when they leap. This is when the plants really take off, because they've got lots of roots established. Now they're putting all that energy into big, lush leaves and flowers. Shrubs and trees. What is a tree? What is a shrub? A shrub is technically a perennial, but it's got woody tissue. Usually these are long-lasting plants. A tree is very similar to a shrub. Usually they have one central stem. There are multi-stem trees as well. There are different techniques for purchasing and planting trees and shrubs. A very common way of planting trees is bare root. These plants do not have any soil or a pot. They just exist without any of that. So you can see in this picture the roots, there's no soil, no pot. Bare root's a really good way of planting because they're meant to be planted while they're dormant. At Jung's, our bare root season is from about end of March through mid-May. So it's very short-lived because you want to plant when it's dormant. Once it breaks dormancy, it's still okay to plant it, but the best time to do it is while they're still dormant, when it's cold out. As soon as you can put your shovel in the soil is when you want to plant these. They're usually pretty cost-effective. They're a little cheaper. For example, our peach trees at Jung's might be $45 in bare root, but they're going to be $75 potted. Yes, go ahead.
Can you just explain the bump that's on the...
Yeah. So on the bare root tree, this is the graft. That's what you're referring to, correct? Yeah, so this is a grafted tree. It's likely, I believe this is a fruit tree. So the root stock, let's say this is a Honeycrisp tree, Honeycrisp apple. The root is not a Honeycrisp apple. It's something else. It determines the overall size of the tree and if it's got any disease resistance built into it. You can get dwarf Honeycrisp apples, semi-dwarf, and standard trees, but they are always grafted. It's a process. I don't actually have knowledge in grafting trees, but it's really cool. It gives you lots and lots of varieties and really healthy trees.
When you plant it, you need to be aware of that graft.
You do. You have to be aware of the graft. You only want to plant your bare root tree to right there. If you bury any more of the stem tissue, you could rot it out. If the graft is lower, let's say the graft is about here, if you bury the graft, the rootstock could start growing, and you'll get some random plant that's not what you paid for, not what you wanted. You will not get a Honeycrisp apple. You'll get whatever the rootstock is on that tree. Yes. But also about bare root trees, there's a huge selection. So like I mentioned, for fruit trees specifically, there'll be semi-dwarf, dwarf, and standard sizes of fruit trees. So apples, pears, plums, peaches. Whereas out in the potted stock, there's not that much variety. And they do cost more. There's virtually zero transplant shock in bare root trees because they have no leaves. There's nothing to shock. They wake up in your soil. So it's a very successful way of planting fruit trees specifically. So selecting the right shrub or tree is very similar to selecting your perennial. Is it going to be in the sun or the shade? Lots of shrubs want full sun, and almost all trees want full sun. There's a couple trees, such as the autumn brilliant serviceberry, that can do some shade because it's only about 15 to 20 feet tall. But if you're looking for a big shade tree, those will want full sun. Shrubs, there are lots of shrubs that can be in the shade. A few varieties that come to mind would be the Annabelle hydrangea. So those are really beautiful white mophead hydrangeas. You can do Kodiak orange honeysuckle in shade. There's a few other varieties, but lots of shrubs want full sun. How tall do you want it to be? Do you want this shrub to be 15 feet tall? I might recommend a smoke bush. Those are really pretty, they want full sun, and they get huge. Or do you want it to be shorter? Do you want it to be 2 feet? You might like a spirea or a weigela for that area if you only want it to be shorter like that. How much time do you want to spend maintaining it? Do you want to be out there pruning it all the time? Or do you want to do something a little more low maintenance? So there are certain varieties of shrubs that I would say that you'd want to prune back every couple years and deadhead all the time. And then there's a few varieties that you don't need to really baby like that. Just let them grow, let them do their thing. Do you want it to bloom in the spring or in the summer? Spring bloomers usually are more short-lived, the time that they're flowering. Like azaleas, they do not bloom for that long. Whereas a hydrangea, those bloom for a very long time. A lot of hydrangeas, they'll start out white, especially those cone-shaped ones. They'll start out white, and then that same flower will age throughout the season to a pretty red burgundy. Do you want it to bear fruit or not? There are lots of shrubs that they will get little fruits on them, such as Aronia melanocarpa. You can make jams out of those. Service berries, those have delicious berries. American highbush cranberry, or the compact version, those will also get fruits on them that we can't eat, but the birds love them. So what is your use for the shrub? Providing cover for wildlife, just to look pretty, a source for pollinators. There are lots of shrubs that attract pollinators. And then there's the deer resistance. Lots and lots of deer like to eat hydrangeas, for example. So instead, you could plant a 9-bark. Those are deer resistant, and they even have winter interest because their bark kind of peels away. Now we're going to go over shrub and tree planting techniques, which is virtually the same as perennials. You want to dig a hole the same depth, but twice the width of the pot that it comes in. Loosen the roots. If the root is really pot bound, you'll want to score it with a knife. This promotes girdling, so that's when the roots keep going in circles and choke out your shrub and your tree. You'll also want to plant, just kind of spread the roots out horizontally when you put in your hole. This will provide stability. They don't necessarily need to go straight down. They need to go horizontally. When you're planting a shrub or a tree, I really recommend mycorrhizae. We carry the brand name Mike. It's beneficial fungi that form colonies with the roots. It increases nutrient absorption, increases water absorption, and makes your plant overall stronger. It reduces transplant shock. Once you're done backfilling your soil in, you'll want to apply a fertilizer such as plant tone around the drip line of your plant. And water in well. It'll promote proper settling. And then you'll want to keep it well watered, just like perennials, for the first 3 years or until established. So if you see on the potentilla that it's drought resistant, it's not until it's established. Also, you want to protect your investment with spiral tree guards. They will make it very hard for rabbits and voles to chew your trees. If they make it all the way around in a circle, they strip all that bark all around. Sorry, but your tree's toast. So they're only $2. So just buy one and put that around your tree. You will thank me. You will not be coming back to buy another tree. These are the spiral tree guards. So with shrubs and perennials, once again, there's common pests and diseases. Every single plant will have its associated plants and diseases. I've been seeing a lot of rust recently. Rusts are interesting. They have 5 spore stages, and they also have a primary and alternative host. So they're super hard to get rid of once you have it, but they're also very common. This is rust on like an apple or a hawthorn tree. And this is its other half. It's a teleal gall on juniper. So that's cedar apple rust. So if you have apples in the area and you plant a juniper, it's very likely that your juniper will be getting rust. There are some fungicides that you can apply to reduce the spread of rusts, but usually once you have a fungus, it's hard to get rid of. You can do things to make it less worse. But so with the rusts, it won't kill the tree. Blight is super common. This picture here is a lilac with blight on it. So if your lilac just gets brown leaves, it's likely a blight. And that one, you'll want to apply fungicides already in the early spring at bud break. Leaf spot is super common on lots of things. Roses, they'll get leaf spots. Maple trees, they get tar leaf spot, which is a big black blob on your leaf of your maple tree. Not harmful at all. It won't hurt a thing. It just looks a little goofy. Powdery mildew, that's the white powdery stuff that you might see on your bee balm or on your lilac, on your honeysuckle. Phlox, yep, that's on phlox a lot too. Aphids, you can find aphids on anything. They're everywhere right now. They're on crab apples, spirea. Yep, they like apples a lot. Then you'll get the ants on them because they're feeding off of the honeydew. Mealybugs, which are very common, are very related to the aphids. That's these cotton-looking guys over here. Sawflies. There are lots of different types of sawflies. There's some on roses that I've seen people bring in recently. There's pine sawflies. So they're not actually a caterpillar, but they are a fly. So this is the larvae of a fly. Japanese beetles, I'm sure all of you have heard of those. They love to munch on everything from basil to green beans to raspberries. They don't discriminate. The Japanese beetles, you can use, you can knock them off into a soap and water bucket. You can spray them with Japanese beetle killer, which is pyrethrin spinosad under the name Captain Jack Dead bug brew will work on those. Do not stomp on them. Do not pull them off and stomp on them because it will release a pheromone that'll draw more in. So try not, as much as you want to stomp on them, trust me, don't. They'll release that pheromone. The traps, they have pros and cons. The traps are a really, really effective way of removing the adult population, but yes, they do draw them in really bad to your plants. So usually you want to put it down from your valuable plants. Don't put it right next to your plants. But I mean, people have filled up bags and bags and bags of those, which it's removing the adult population so they're not going to lay 3,000 eggs when they burrow back into the soil. And luckily, Japanese beetles are only out for like 2 to 3 weeks. Their life cycle mostly exists underground. The bad thing about systemic is that it makes the entire plant poisonous. So then pollinators, you might be, they might be killing pollinators. So I don't usually recommend the systemic unless it's not flowering. So let's say you have a hibiscus that you brought in over the winter, a tropical hibiscus, a houseplant that you brought in, then go ahead and apply the systemic granules.
What about rose bushes that are outside? No?
I would do that after all the petals, or after they're done blooming. So if you've got, but they bloom throughout the season.
Yeah, that would be hard.
Yeah, and we do sell it. I just don't usually promote it. If you're at your wit's end, by all means, go for it. But we do have natural alternatives too that you can use. So some pest solutions. Here's some products that I've picked out for you guys for various uses. Cold pressed neem oil, that works really well for fungal and insect diseases. Cold pressed because it still has the azadirachtin compound left in it. The normal neem oil, the way that it's processed, leaves out the azadirachtin. So definitely go with cold pressed. That works the best on things. Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew. The active ingredient in Captain Jack's is spinosad. It works on lots and lots of different insects, from soft-bodied to hard-bodied, so from bugs to beetles, larvae. That one's natural. Captain Jack's, that's a natural compound. It was actually a byproduct of the rum industry. The neem, that's also a natural compound. Copper fungicide, that's a go-to product I like to recommend for powder mildew and for some leaf spot, some blight on your tomatoes. That's a natural compound. It's just copper. Funganil, so that's the synthetic fungicide. So if your crabapple gets blight on it, that's what I'd recommend using. Rust species and some lawn diseases you can use funganil on. And 8, this is the synthetic insecticide that I'll recommend when you've tried already the organic compounds and you just really want to get rid of it. Just be aware of, in the booklet on the back, it'll tell you how many days to wait until you can harvest the fruit or the vegetable. It's a little longer for the synthetic compounds. So just make sure that you're reading all your labels. That's very, very important. Also, you want to use these according to package instructions. If you just spray it once, that might not do anything. You'll need to spray it every 7 to 10 days, depending upon which product you choose. And that's when you'll see results. A common fruit tree product I like to recommend is called Fruit Tree Plant Guard. That one you can only use 4 times on apple trees. It is a synthetic ingredient, but you can use it on peaches, yes. Yep, that would be the Fruit Tree and Plant Guard. So that you can use on all fruit trees. The sap, yeah. That's called gummosis. That sap that's coming out from the trunk, or the stems, yeah. Gummosis can be caused by lots and lots of different things. Stress, drought, too much water, a wound. I don't have it pictured here. It's called Fruit Tree and Plant Guard. And there's a maximum number of applications you can use on that one. And there's a chart for when you're supposed to spray. Never spray when the petals, or when it's blossoming, because you could be hurting pollinators that are pollinating, that are giving you your peaches and apples. So.
But once they...
You can do your 3rd and 4th application after fruit set.
Really?
Yep, you just have to mark on your calendar the last time you used the product, so then you know when or how long you have to wait before you can harvest the product or harvest the fruit. They're safe. These are all regulated. It's all safe. You just have to pay attention to minimum days till harvest. Depending on the product you choose, you can keep spraying it. Sometimes the frost, a cold snap makes them sugarier, more sugary. Yeah.
Sweeter?
Sweeter! Yeah, it makes them sweeter when you get that cold snap. So a lot of like later ripening apples, they'll be sweeter because the sugar promotes them to retain their sugars. So yeah, stop in to Jung's and let us know any problems you've got going on with your plants, and we'll be happy to help.
Okay.
Yeah.